Hello everyone, this is System Chalk with, I think, this is the 6th episode of The Physician. Again, it's been a little while between sessions, so I'm going to need a little bit of time to review. This is going to be true for most of the videos, I think, because finding an hour block to do a session isn't always free, although the good news is that sometimes I'll do them back to back, which means that I won't need as much review time between episodes. Before I go too far in, I did want to just deal with a little bit of feedback that I've seen. So it's in one sense mixed, but mixed in a good way as far as responses to this series are concerned. It is one of the start of the series is actually one of the more popular Cultist Simulator videos that I've done as like a YouTube specific. So that's the good side of the ledger. Now we'll see whether or not it's easy to start things, but whether or not that whether or not that means that it's the same response at the end, we'll see. But the other half to it is that I have seen the comments that say that people would really like to see the old sort of 20-minute format, and I'm conscious of that. So just to give people an idea of where my head is at on this, the series that I have planned after this, I know what I'm going to be doing, and I very much plan for that to be very much like the Apostles. So if you've started watching this channel and following the videos because of the old Apostle Obstinate playthrough, that is going to be what the next series is like. Now, for those of you that like the 1 hour videos, I still need to kind of figure out how that works, because certainly there has been a very big sort of swell of support that seems to have come out of that. So again, as always, thank you very much for your support. Definitely this has been a somewhat successful experiment, and once I get to the end of it, I'll sort of take the I'll take the information on board and see what I can do with it. But for those of you worried about this being a shift in style, as far as the next series is concerned, that is definitely going to be in the old format. And then I'll get whatever feedback I can out of this to try and try and do something that makes sense. Okay, let's focus on Cultist Simulator. So we've got our commissions, but I think we were getting short on. Oh well, we're definitely not short on money now. So I believe we also needed to do some expeditions, although I'm noticing we don't have much in the way of summons. So did we wind up losing some? Sorry, I need to sneeze. Maybe I don't. Excuse me. Oh, I believe we lost a I believe we lost a Callagine, so perhaps I was waiting with this rising... No, the rising heat wouldn't help, because that's... Yeah, no, that wouldn't summon a Callagine. Okay. The Ardent Orison... Is Valcine... Yeah, Valcine is a 5, so we might actually be able to get away with summoning a Callagine out of this. We can try that after working at the Institute. We dodged a bullet with Connie Lee. She was not able to... sort of take, or I think it was take Orthos wood from us. But we do want to be conscious of that. And we have a Season of Suspicion coming up. Sorry, as I said, I need to kind of figure out where I'm at. So we have not generated any notoriety, it looks like. So perhaps it would be a good idea for me to keep my nose clean for the next little while. I suppose that means the bomb maker and the shifty woman, I'm not going to be able to imprison them quite yet. But that's fine. Okay. Overall, in terms of the playthrough, so the main goal, as always, remains Ascension and Enlightenment. I think that goes without saying. But part of the plan here is to convert my renegades. I mean, maybe we'll be able to bring Hobson to heal as well. But right now, both Connie and Zachary are sort of a threat to me, and it turns out that I believe we need something like 21 intensity edge. So that is not something. It's definitely something that I need to put a lot of effort behind, which of course we'll get by doing expeditions, but doing expeditions creates notoriety, which right now we can't afford. Okay, Season of Despair coming up. We'll be fine because the contentment's already taken this one out. Despair abates. Memories of better times keep the wolf from the door. So that's going to get rid of the Season of Visions as well. So overall, we're in good shape there. What are we studying? So we're getting erudition at the moment, but why do I want this erudition? It may be to try and move the Moldy Warp admonitions up. Well, no, in that case I would want fascination. I will confess, I'm a little lost as to why I'm trying to generate erudition right now when I have so many texts. But perhaps it's because I just recently finished an expedition that's causing that. Adversaries asking searching questions about my activities. Okay, so I'm in a little bit of a tricky spot right now. So the Shifty Woman and the Bomb Maker can't go searching, but the Percussagant can. So let's get the Percussagant searching the city. We'll get this Shifty Woman and the Bomb... Oh, I can't get the Bomb Maker to chat. Alright, that complicates things again. But I can use the Bomb Maker and the Ritual to try and summon the Callagine. Alright, I can also use the Trembling Heat. That might be a little too much, actually. Well, let's grab it just in case. Gearby was weeping again. I scooped his molten tears in my cupped palm. In the dream, my skin peeled and blistered, but only in the dream. Okay, so we'll take the cash. We have got our extra erudition again. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I was trying to do with that, but let's not worry about it too much. So, for the work, let's do... for now, I'll do the Sunset Rite. We'll take this offering. We'll use the Bomb Maker. Yeah, and the challenge here is that there's no knock for the... there's no knock for the task. So, let's try something a little... Oh, actually, that makes life harder because I don't have winter influence now. Use this Bomb Maker. Oh, interesting. So the Maid in the Mirror winds up being the it's because of the edge. That was unexpected. I've really put myself into a corner here then. Okay, well let's focus on the Callagine because that's sort of my most pressing need. So we'll bring Neville in for the summoning and then Winter. So summon a creature of smoky deception. Forge for the smoky spirit summoning, Winter for its binding. It must know who will rule it. We will take care of the Bomb Maker, but I've got other things that I need to worry about right now. Actually, I may not be able to take care of the Bomb Maker. We've got the Watchful Tantra. So, I'm just trying to think. It looks like I've done most of my translations here. Oh, sorry, we don't actually have as many books as that. Yeah, I've done most of my translations here, and we aren't really under a lot of threat. So, Watchful Tantra, notorious for its involvement in the deaths of Dyfed Jones and Meredith Blaine, two early physicists who each claimed to have the only copy and who ultimately fought a duel over it in 1840. The Tantra describes the processes of occult illumination, including a formula which may show the way from the Hunter's Gate to the Serpent Gate, which in the West is usually called the Spider's Door. So as a reminder, I actually got a comment on the Cultist Simulator guide that I got, that I put on YouTube. And I had a lot of sympathy for this comment because sort of the person said, is like, you know, this is a good tutorial, but we don't actually have what we need to understand the game. Like, what do we know about Lantern other than the fact that it's a lantern icon? Like, how does this have any relation to anything else that's going on? And especially if you play, like, if you play a lot of games, you've gotten accustomed to thinking about games in a certain way and having certain expectations about how information is given to you. And how many games would tell you kind of the step from the stag door to the spider's door, in this sort of way, right? So it can often seem like this is just very nice writing, that it's spooky and cryptic, and it uses a lot of very old words, but there is some practical knowledge in it. This is definitely one of the more explicit hints. So the Hunter's Gate to the Serpent Gate. What's interesting here, of course, is you don't necessarily just want to, like the first reading of this is to say it's like, which in the West is usually called the Spider's Door. So if you don't know that the next step is the Spider's Door, what you need to do is make the connection from the Hunter's Gate to the Stag Door. Now, I believe this is made in another text, but obviously you need the memory for that. Alternatively, one way that you can find out about the Spider's Door is to look at the map of the Mansis, which I think we'll be seeing before too long. So that's another way that this potentially tells you what to do. Then, of course, I mean, if you've already played the game, I suppose you can say, well, I know what the Spider's Door is, but then the challenge there is you probably already know how to get there, and so this isn't necessarily as helpful. But the other thing that's helpful, right, like, so now we have this idea of the Serpent Gate. Okay, well, does that have, serpents are referred to in other situations, particularly with a certain kind of lore, and it's not the lore that the Watchful Tantra seems to be about. So is there another reference or influence that we might want to be thinking about when it comes to the Spider's Door? That's something that you can unpack again with later bits of lore and a little bit of reading. But again, if you, like, one of the things that I have a lot of sympathy for are people who really want to like this game, but sometimes feel that it really just hasn't given them enough to kind of move on to. And I mean, in the end, not every game is going to appeal to everyone. But I like giving these particular examples to sort of just say, it's like, it's not going to be for everyone, but the writing isn't just flowery language to show off how good, the writer is. There is actually a purpose for it. And when you think about this game, again, if you sort of think about where you find yourself in this game, someone who's been given a glimpse at the occult or what's really going on, and sort of left with that and a few threads to pull on, again, you kind of get to throw yourself in that game and that experience. And of course, for me, right, we can think about the character that we're playing here, Lord Stabbe. Certainly we have quite a bit of ambition, and we have done pretty much anything to try and progress. We certainly are well off now. We have exploited our position at the Institute, and in some cases it will mean that it's more flexible for me to leave, and other times it means that I'm sort of relying on it to get more money. There's lots of sort of ways in which this particular character has very rapidly advanced their knowledge of the world. Again, it's still fragmentary. We've actually struggled a little bit to get the deeper lore. But in this particular case here, right, it's a game where I don't think you could have a better example of where you are very much in your character's shoes. I suppose the analogy that I might draw would be, it's a little bit like if someone were to play a first-person shooter, and that or maybe even sorry, I know I'm sort of monologuing, which on something that I suspect an audience that already likes Cultist Simulator may not necessarily find this as interesting. But I think one of the potential pain points for people where they might otherwise like the game but struggle would be, to a certain extent, Cultist Simulator is a game that, in terms of the relationship between the player and its subject, it's a little bit like playing, a fighting game, like something like Street Fighter, except that you need to perform the attacks yourself. Like if you can't do a high kick, then your fighter can't. Or alternatively, if you're playing a first-person shooter, and it's not enough to just use the mouse to aim. It is actually going to require you to, aim an actual weapon, and it's going to simulate the physics and the kickback and so on and so forth. And clearly, I'm going to feel very differently about, the Battlefield games if I'm doing that experience. And some people will really like that, right? That's why games like Arma exist. But of course, if you are playing this to kind of be an occult tourist, in some cases it may not necessarily be the experience that you're wanting. I mean, again, I'm not in the same sort of danger that Lord Stabbe is, and I'm certainly not going to abduct someone in the real world. So there is it does have simulator in the title. But again, if you go into this game expecting that your character already has some mastery over the arcane arts, that can actually be a big pain point in this game, because you're not. You're actually someone who probably is not very different in terms of ability and sort of natural, like basically just an endowment of resources. It's not really that different from the player. You start from that same place, and you go through that process of sort of illumination and understanding. I mean, I suppose this is the funny thing, is that the start is very much like the real world. It's just all the progress that's imaginary. So instead of accomplishing something in the real world, you just accomplish something in the virtual world of the game. What a happy thought. But anyways, it was one that I kind of wanted to talk about. But with that in mind, like I do just kind of try and use these ones as an example to talk about how the game actually does have a consistency that you can discover inside of it, and that the game actually gives you a few more solutions to the puzzles than you may necessarily realize on a first playthrough. But it does have an expectation that you're going to sort of read and pay attention. And of course, they appear more than once in some cases, because you're not necessarily going to make those connections the first time that you read or the first time that you play. All right, let's go back to the... I don't think I can do the stag doors. Or no, sorry, I can't do the spider door. So, back to the stag door. All right, so that's not going to help me. I found someone whom I might pay to enact regrettable necessities. Add funds to hire them for a limited time. So unless I can find something to stick my bomb maker in, we're going to lose them. That's wasted money. And another season of suspicion. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I'm saying, if that means anything. No fascination drives your visions, it's over for now. And I'm safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. I do want to try and get rid of Hobson, but we do have, with the Seasons of Suspicion, I want to try and be a little more careful with how I'm spending my time. Probably should have sacrificed the bomb maker now that I think of it. But nothing then. All right. I mean, I could just talk to the shifty woman and pay her again. I won't, though. Not all of the Forge's creatures are bright. Its offcuts and its bastards gather gather in the bounds like hammerscale in the cracks of a smithy floor. Here comes one now. Okay, so I can go back to the Institute if I want. The sun passes through the house at the appointed time. Since the sun's division, the time has become uncertain. So of course we used this lore to already get to the spider's door, but we do have the right of Watchman's Sorrow, which in this case, we already had a copy of. Okay, let's go and read. We'll read our next few texts. I mean, there's a few things that I can do here, right? I could actually, maybe I should just work on this commission because I have the opportunity to. I don't want to turn it in because that'll generate some mystique, but let's at least get that out of the way. And then study-wise, against the sisterhood of the Knock and the foulness of their depraved customs, Hieronymus Hypnertomachus wrote this furious screed about the sinister influence of the sisterhood on his own church of the unconquered sun. Hieronymus claims that the powers served by the sisterhood of the Knot made an arrangement. The Thunderskin loved the Ewe, and the Grail destroyed him. As restitution for the destruction of the Axe's loved ones, Hieronymus's writing becomes incoherent with rage at this point. Okay, so if I want to summon something, the Subtle Rupture will help, but let's go to the Painted River. The only thing I'm worried about, this might be a fascination. Yep. Light leaks through the cracks, my mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. I dreamt of the mansis behind the white door, of the great space above the orchard, the space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted her river. Painted ships passed upon the painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movement of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see those colors still. Alright, so I'm gonna... Oop, I thought I could talk about the Callagine here. It looks like I have to do it the other way around, though. So we're gonna do an expedition more or less right away. If I do the headquarters, which apparently I don't have right now. Where did my headquarters go? Oh, it's right there. Yeah, that doesn't work with a shifty woman. Okay, so I'm thinking about whether or not I can betray the shifty woman in time. Let's leave the dream slot open. This fascination is an opportunity. We've got the Moldy Warp admonitions. So, glimmerings or a sanctuary. The glimmering might be hard to get a hand. Okay, we'll leave the dream slot open, actually. But I am going to do another expedition fairly soon. In 10 seconds, the Season of Suspicion starts. So in this particular case, I think I don't think we're going to generate the notoriety at an inconvenient time. So let's take care of Orthos Wood next. The pines grow thick as hairs on a dog's back. The airs of the inner wood are chokingly thick with resin and dust. Actually, you know what? Let's do Grunwald's Permanent Circus. It's the more sort of high-value location. Grunwald's Permanent Circus, the tiny city of patched tents around a whitewashed farm. Hunched performers shiver in the dripping rain. Frau Grunwald has devoted her considerable fortune to the maintenance of this institution. Who knows why? The circus performers dislike trespassers behind the scenes. So Callagine and Percussagant again. Again, this is really just a matter of preserving the summons. The circus folk will be ready to take up arms against us, and the power in the circus, we fear, may be worm-touched. All right. As far as Moldy Warp is concerned, the other thing... Yeah, so I got to get my hands on some glimmerings. And moving right along, we get sort of free time, so... Expedition continues. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. We can add funds now, or I could send another follower. So the worms in the world, we need lantern or moth to suppress this curse. Otherwise, it will not keep us from our goal, but it may trouble us later. And then we do have watchers, mortals, perhaps ordinary mortals, but quite a number of them. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived. So let's bring Victor in first, and then we'll add a moth follower. Alright. If a hunter's found no evidence, they will try to use it to create or upgrade evidence. If they're meticulous, they'll always succeed. If they're erratic, they're more likely to fail. So here we can betray the shifty woman right away. This one must serve another purpose now. Into the cupboard they go. So this will generate notoriety, but we can use our heart followers for that. Hieronymus recovers his composure eventually to describe how the Thunderskin entered the Mansus through the Peacock door. This, Hieronymus insists, is abomination upon abomination, but then that most abominable of doors has always been an abomination. So, yet another forbidden epic. These will be good for upgrading later, but right now it's a little excessive. And I finished the manuscript, so that's something we can give to Jannings when the time is right. For now, I think I'm going to spend a little money. And then because I have some fascination, which I could sort of use to upgrade some lore, I'm going to take a second here and read sentimental literature. If I propose to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading this stuff. I've locked this one away safely. When their screaming and raving subsides, I will subdue them properly. So we will take the follower betrayed. The spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood I have given leaks in threads and spills through the skin of the world, and the door drinks it, and a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other shifty woman. Again, this generates notoriety for me, but we'll immediately send Dorothy and Clovette and Leo to clean it all up. The Watchers will almost certainly regret standing against us. And Season of Dread, or Despair, so I want to be careful on that one. Let's take Dorothy, talk to her about the Church of the Bright Edge. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but we have, if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. I'm safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. So, of course, another thing I could try would be to talk to Hobson. I'm actually not in a bad spot for that. Let's do the Chamber of Ways this time. Alright, that's a little inconvenient. Winter passes through the clothes, passes the skin, nestles in the veins. Last night I came to the Concursum. The place at which the Mansus corridors end, which has been called the Chamber of Conclusions. Here the hours meet in striving or execution or resignation. In the evening sapphire of the chamber's light, I saw the sun in rags pass with his shattered crown and his silent retinue. And this morning, I awoke shivering. Alright. So, let's go back through the spider's door, actually. Season of Ambition can put an end to that, but for now, I seem to be fine. Their blood pumps bright, then dark. They should not have opposed us. We move on. So Valcine Yuzabet gets added to the expedition. We know that we'll pass the curse, but we don't know if the curse will cause us inconvenience later. So I want to be a little careful on that. Okay. I've done some good. My patients are quieter than when I began, and we've read the sentimental literature. I've passed the time. I've been inclined to tears, and afterwards inclined to laughter. Meanwhile, the world continues. So here, I'm going to now try to upgrade this lore. We can try it with the Fenian Invocation and the Geminate Invocation as well, but right now, this is an opportunity for me to bring the Moth level up. So, when breath is black as when breath is black at the glass, when mist tautens the skin, when woods walk in winter, we hear these words. Oop, I should use my work verb. So I guess the question is, do I want to do another commission, or do I want to work at the Institute again? Let's at least get our lore taken care of. We're not going to have notoriety forever. Okay. Here you go, Yuzabet. Standards of daylight society cannot apply to us, but perhaps we won't emphasize that point. Perhaps we'll rely on charm and good humor. I've supplied elegant platitudes about the high principles of our organization. Alright. So we might actually lose that fascination. Ooh, I didn't realize we could get a favor from authority that way. I'm gonna keep going to the Mallory because the fact that there is an item that you can get from it makes that a little more desirable. I need to get a better idea in terms of what's available from these 2 slots. So, Forgotten Chronicle would have been really helpful. Blaze of Radiance. Every color has its own bright... Every color has grown bright as new dye, but now all of them bleed towards white. So, this would be useful in a couple of ways. I think right now, though, this is more of a liability. Last night in the Mansis, I visited the Mallory, from whose impulses and rotations one does not emerge unchanged. There are many radiances there, from the fires in the forge and her names and her instruments, but one radiance lingers behind them like a fading music, the last light of the sun in splendor, shed in the moments of his division, here where the forge is strongest. Now that I have awoken, I see that radiance still. Okay. So we don't have any prisoners to use to access the spider's door, so now I need to decide, do I want to go through the stag door, or do I want to use my dream slot for something else? I think, actually, I'm just going to hold off. Well, no, we're going to go back through the stag door, actually. We're almost certainly strong enough in Moth to be secure against this curse. Optimism is the spice which saves. Okay, so I gotta think, is there anything that I want to try and do with the talk verb now? I could talk with Spencer Hobson. One worry I have is that the Season of Ambitions may lead Zachary or Connie to try and take Orthos Wood or the Hebe Stanton, but I don't think there's anything I can do to... Oh, hang on. I can try and make a snare. So, let's talk with... I believe I need to talk with one of my Forge followers... about a location. Yes. Rivals are cautious. They don't like to prowl the streets like hunters. To defeat one, we must prepare a trap and await for our opportunity. Edge, Forge, Moth, or Winter are useful for creating snares. Once created, a snare can be used when an independent makes an attempt on a vault. So again, it would have been nice to try and get rid of the notoriety, but I need to deal with the world as it is. Okay, so we need a glimmering, that's fine. We may not have the fascination in time. Okay. And let's do the forge. Oh, if I can afford it. Nope. Well, back to the Institute then. There's a dank and clinging smell at the Institute halls that never quite leaves one. Perhaps it is the paint, perhaps it's the patient. Perhaps... patience. Perhaps it's something in the walls. Alright, Connie is on her way. Here is another who would ascend before me. And... bold scheme, traces left... Alright, let's see what it does. Again, this is not new material for me, but it's definitely unfamiliar because I usually just stick with the Weary Detective. Alright, I'm actually going to generate fascination here. There is a reason for this. So I lost my fascination before. Now this intensity of radiance may turn into fascination as well, but what's nice here about having 2 fascination is that this is going to... this is something that I could potentially dream away into, or like I could get rid of the dread by subverting the fascination. So that's essentially why I'm doing it that way, and I'm going to keep the dream slot open. All right, treasures lie before us. An adequate snare. When we get our edge followers up, we'll be able to make something a little better. Alright. Kerisham I can live with. Or I can live with losing. I don't want to lose it, but just in case. Okay. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship. So we'll use the fascination here. My rival seeks tools and lore for their own ascension. So if they do take Kerisham, so be it. I don't want them to, but it's something that I may not have a say in. Alright, my follower has prepared a stratagem which, with considerable luck, might defeat a rival's plans. So I do need to decide whether or not I'm going to use it, but that's another question. Let's talk with Dorothy about getting more of my reputation laundered. Wrong one. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. And we have a season of visions coming up, so now I want to be a little careful about fascination. After the circus, in the red tent, the madness of paper, the circus... Oh, actually, did I read this before? No. After the circus, in the striped tent, coiling tetralogies behind smeared and murky glass. In the grey tent, dripping fog that nuzzles us like a hunting cat. Fog rank as an animal. In the black and starred tent, wonderful meshes of ori and sculpture spangled with costume gems. In the red tent, a waxen priest in the glass coffin, and the books clasped to his chest. In the red tent, a madness of paper. The circus folk have pasted diagram-crowded paper to every surface. The anatomies of time, the dissections of old weather. The place stinks of nowhere. We should burn it when we leave. A trestle table holds an unceremonious muddle of trophies and keepsakes. Thank you, Elizabeth. Apparently I get erudition for visiting the circus. There's notoriety, which is a little scary each time. Victor did well. Percussagent and Callagine did well. Alright, so Gartside Sanskrit Raider, that's just going to be something we convert into cash. As with the Jumble. We've got the Writhing Call, this is a new one for us. So lay your hand on these tattered folds and feel their warmth. Leave your hand upon it and it will explore the possibilities of embrace. This is very powerful, level 12 ingredient. A true and accurate history of the Shadowless Kings. Isaac of Karth's History of the Shadowless Empire. And this is in Aramaic, which we now know. Sunset Passages, a holy text of the Church of the Unconquered Sun, which in many histories was driven underground. This is in Latin, so we can translate it. And the Ivory Book, Manual of the Order Limea, an order of quasi-immortals who maintained a secret enclave at the source of the river Limea in the Roman province of Hispania Gallicaea. Or possibly Galatia. I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. So quite a bit of winter, which of course would make sense due to the references of nowhere, I think. I know nowhere isn't exactly... Well, I don't know. For some reason I do feel that there's enough associations between winter and nowhere, but it's hard to say that it's a principle of nowhere because it's different. Still, nowhere seems to be associated with endings, so I'll try and parse that out at another time. So yeah, with the Season of Visions coming up, I do need to be careful about this Consciousness of Radiance. I also would like to get through as many expeditions as I can, so we are not worried about the rival. I think I am willing to let Kerisham go, because the plan is to get Connie Lee in the cult, and I'm assuming trying to ensnare her will, well, I don't know. Let's see what happens. We have other ways of getting rid of Connie. Or do we? Actually, snares might be the only way. All right, well, it'll be an experiment. Okay. I think we'll do Orthos Wood next. So again, we gotta preserve the Percussagent and the Callagine. Orthos Wood, the pines grow thick as hairs on a dog's back. The airs of the inner wood are chokingly thick with resin and dust. The source that brought you here claimed that in the dawn times, the greatest tree at the wood's black heart served as a perch for the great masked crow. In the black heart of Orthos Wood, we might find the tree where the masked crow met its peers, but the forest itself is a peril, and the cannibal clans who live there are another. I should probably start using my dream verb sooner rather than later. And I think I'm going to have to spend money on medicine. Okay, so Watcher's fine, and well, if it's a forest, it's got to be Moth. Well, Forge will work too. Actually, yeah, Forge definitely seems a little more on brand for us. So, Valcine goes in. Now I understand. We're almost certainly going to get hit by the Fascination. I prepared a snare. Yeah, we'll use the snare here. Let's cash in the Institute job, and at this point I think I'm just going to pay for the affliction. No need to get fancy about it. Medicine is dark and bitter as tar. It would be easy to suspect I'm being poisoned. Okay, now interestingly enough, there's no fascination for me to deal with at the moment. So if I can find a way of getting rid of the consciousness of radiance in 17 seconds, I'm fine. The problem is that I don't actually see any way for me to use it. So Forge is ingenious. Forge is ruthless. We'll almost certainly make it through. Which again, I'm fine with because we've got the dread, which will get picked up right away. It's also possible that the fascination will pop out of this area as well, which is exactly what happened. I increased my mastery of the lore of the wood, which we call by its aspect Moth. Now, one of the drawbacks here is that, oh, it's 42.6. Both of these, okay. I suspect this fascination is going to get picked up before this dread. But the way that I can get around that. So Centipede Testament for us here. The centipede came up out of the sands and went in under the roots. She found a new home, but now she can't go home. She creeps everywhere else, keyholes and histories and the channels of birth and sight and hearing. Here's what she has to say. Now, there's a couple of ways that I can handle this. So we are going to go up to two fascination. And because we've got 42.6 seconds, this fascination's almost certainly going to get pulled before this dread. What would have been best is if I could combine these two and then basically use that to... actually, hang on. If I had something of lantern, and well, lantern or moth influence, so even if I had a glimmering, that would probably work. Erudition, no, it has to specifically be the influences. But yeah, so if these got combined, they'd turn into a fleeting reminiscence, which would then get rid of the season of visions. But again, what's likely going to happen here is that the fascination is going to get picked up, then the dread, which means we have one more thing that the fascination needs to take away. Season of Ardors is coming up, so we'll have contentment, which doesn't really help us with the fascination, but that's not necessarily a problem either. So I think probably my best bet is to actually just force some dread in, and we'll read Sunset Passages. It's a shame because I kind of wanted to read Deoris, but necessity says we should probably try and go for some dread. There's never a guarantee that winter lore will give you dread. It's only specific books that do. But winter is going to be more likely than others to generate dread. There's Latin. So holy text of the Church of the Unconquered Sun, which many... Oh, sorry, we already read this. So. Something up ahead, we've made it through the forest. Alright, no one understands us, or else they understand us too well. Okay, I think we'll still talk with Dorothy. My rival has evaded our trap. Alright. Connie seems to be a little annoyed about that. And my rival has advanced their cause. Whatever they sought here, they have found it. Okay, so we're going to need to get another Kerisham if I want its contents. But that's not a high priority right now. Yeah. Kind of knew that was coming. It's a shame, but... So, another Season of Ardors. Fair enough. back to the Institute with us. And... okay. We'll add Victor for the edge. And my lover and I contend in the spaces above and beneath the flesh. I must match their intensity. So, we've got plenty of reason to apply. And we'll now read the text. So, Sunset Passages, a miscellany of funerary prayers, ceremonies, and hymns of the Church of the Unconquered Sun, which was ascendant in the third and fourth histories. It schismed during the intercalate when the sun was divided and has not survived as a significant force. The Church revered the sun in splendor before it was divided, but even while it was still whole, its later selves were recognized as its names. The Madrigard, of course, presided over death and the passage into the house. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to do anything with the dream slot right now. I can always keep going back through the stag door, but I don't know if that gets me anything. For the Geminate Invocation, Glimmering, and... health. I can live with that. Probably just the passion. So I do want to avoid snares with rivals in the future, I think. I don't want to make them too annoyed. Our strength is matchless. The Watchers will almost certainly regret standing against us. And Enid prefers to close her eyes rather than look at me. She says it hurts to look. She says it with such longing that I can't take offense. Alright, so one thing I could actually do here is take this contentment with the dread. I think I'm going to do that actually, just in case. So we'll clear my mind after a minute. The reason for that is just the fleeting reminiscence is also going to get rid of the vision, so... and my rival has acquired more lore, more treasures, more connections, and in turn, they've become something more. Connie, a long in the making. Connie could never resist a challenge. So I am a little curious here if I can still do the recruitment effort. Optimism is a spice which saves. Okay, so we've got the mystique here. That is going to be a little inconvenient for getting rid of our notoriety in future. But for the time being, I think I'm going to turn in the existing commissions. And we're just going to have to accept the notoriety for a little while. Right. So Silver Spintrea and some Mystique. Also means I will probably, with turning these in, I may not, if I'm lucky, I may not have to generate the Glimmering through reading the right kind of books. Alright, so Sunset Passages doesn't seem to have given us dread, which is good because we've already gotten rid of it. The White Ceremony was spoken to honor the Madrigard at funerals held in the chilly space before dawn. The text cautions that all blades should remain sheathed while the ceremony is spoken, lest the corpse be not quiet. Which, I don't know why, I find an oddly funny... little description. It's mostly just because of... so use this in a rite with a heart influence. Oh wait, it's not the heart influence in Byzantine tanked. Yeah, sorry. It's just the idea that of the way the influences work in this game, sort of unintentionally doing the sort of thing that you would try to accomplish within the game itself. I don't know. It makes me laugh. So I can try and upgrade the heart. This is tempting because it would give us even more heart, although of course edge is the thing that we're really interested in. So for now, I think we will read Deoris, an occasionally coherent catalog of the secret gods. This is an English translation of a volume describing the enmity between the Lionsmith and the Tribune of Scars. Alright, Iron Spintrea, it's an erudition, so we won't be able to upgrade that heart lore right away. But we are good for commissions for the time being. So if I want to use my talk for... Actually, you know what? We can have a chat with Hobson. So perhaps you could parlay, or perhaps I could send something to ambush them. So Spencer Hobson is erratic and a mystic, but does not actually have any particular... There's no particular weighting. Now, I don't believe we can use Heart to do anything spooky to them, but I believe we could use our newly... No, we can't use Moth either, so it looks like it's Lantern or Winter. Fair enough. Would Grail do anything? I don't think it would, but... Okay, no. So, there's a power that commemorates and grieves, from whom nothing is taken, but who cannot be deceived. I will tell you that power's name. Listen to me. So this is not a random choice that I've made, right? I've got Lantern and I've got Winter. Now, we do have the Season of Visions... Oh, hang on. We're up 2. Okay, this is all the more important. For some reason, I thought we were only up 1. So the Mystique... Fleeting Reminiscence is definitely going to help here, as will the Dread. But the main thing I was thinking about was the fact that I'm probably going to wind up with the Contentment from the Liaison anyway. So, oh, my summoning has been defeated. Our numbers dwindle. Alright, supplies are low. Unless I send more funds, we will have to abandon the expedition. So the good news is that I can still add another edge follower to get us through, but I am going to need a replacement for Cussagant. And unfortunately, I didn't mean to do it that way. I actually wanted to read what happened. It's a bittersweet memory, so if I need more dread, that's easy for me to get. It is banished or destroyed. Alright, the sun still moves, the wind still walks, my journals are the labyrinth clue. So we are going to go back through the stag door here, and this is so that we can potentially get a knock to summon the percussicant. The trembling airs is not going to be enough, so I need something a little stronger. I could use the rose pearl dust or the witch kissed oil, but I'm not that eager. Okay, Season of Sickness coming up next, so the trembling airs will help me out here. And, well, we could do Moth, but we're not. We're adding Rose. The Watchers will almost certainly regret standing against us. And back to the Institute. Paintings whispers, windows wink. I know these things are not true, but how can I be certain? The Linesmith makes monsters to defeat the Tribune, but the scars of the Tribune are each a weapon. So we could upgrade the Knife Secret. Unfortunately, that's not going to take us any further, so that wasn't too helpful. At this point, let's just keep reading the text we already have. So the Tantra of Worms. The entomologist Juliana Zawickowski eventually came to insist that this text was written by insects inhabiting a human skin. She never presented evidence for her claim. The Tantra explains various less than practical countermeasures against the worms, and the serpents which are not serpents. Moth and Winter are closest to them, and so understand their weaknesses, but both have their own perils. The Lionsmith crushes them, but that's not recommended for mortals. Okay. Yes, there are terrible things in the world, but that's all the more reason to resist them. I should thank you. You've shown me what I must do. This hunter has become tenacious and an idealist. Oh, good lord. All right. All right. So I have a strategy I'm going to be employing against Spencer Hobson. I'm going to need some time on that, though. So let's see if Connie is still someone I can recruit. No, this one has not forgotten what occurred between us. Perhaps someday, if I do them no further harm, their feelings might change. Okay, so I may have to gift them something. Oh wait, but I tried gift... Alright, I'm going to need some time to think about that. We're going to be getting rid of the Fascination, and we don't have a Season of Visions coming up. So, before we do that, let's try upgrading the Fenian Invocation so we have higher level Lantern. So, Erudition is fine, and Fascination. Okay, that's a little more difficult. So I suppose the question is, how long am I willing to wait on this? For now, I'll take my chances with Church of the with reputation cleansing. Their blood pumps bright and then dark. They should not have opposed us. Move on. Okay, this will be helpful for the season of sickness that's about to come up. Okay, that's not helpful to me, but the Ascent of Knives might give me something. Nope. Alright. I visited the Ascent of Knives last night through that harshest of rows through the house. It has been sacred to the Menascate and the Sun and Rag since the Intercalate, when the true sun was divided. When I woke, my room was freezing. The chill of it had cracked the window glass. Okay, so I'll keep the dream slot open for the next little bit. Season of Despair coming up, so I want to be careful about Dread. Okay, now the real shame here, or no, this wouldn't have helped me with a percussivant, so back to the Institute. At least until I can get some knock. Okay, we're ready to talk to Jannings after the Charm offensive. And the worms have always been eager to inhabit us. Here are the practices which makes us inhospitable to them. There are diagrams. The diagrams are not good to look upon, and none of the practices they depict would allow the subjects to survive. So another operation of the declining sun, which is kind of replacing what we used to get the invocation of the ivory dove, if I recall correctly. Now, I would like to keep reading these works, but let's see if we can use the erudition to get us up a level. I know we're not going to have the fascination, but I might be able to at least get a little progress. Alright, so I really don't care if that turns out or not. This is the great oak where the masked crow once roosted. Lightning has split it from head to heart, and the tree is charred and rotting. It squirms with finger-length worms. Sometimes something glints dully in the swarm of dead roots. Well, we got rid of the mystique for whatever that's worth. Hobson is going to be a nuisance. This illness has damaged my health. I will need to rest before I'm fully recovered. So we'll use the vitality for that. You know what? Okay, first things first. Let's talk with Count Jannings to get a new commission. The Good Count's fraternity in Europe is seeking particular research. And the memory of crows. A root coils around an egg of lead the size of a child. Perhaps it was plated with another metal once, but the weather has removed all trace of any coating. After a struggle, the halves of the egg come apart to reveal its contents. So, more notoriety. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk with Spencer Hobson. We'll use the lore that we have rather than an ideal. Okay, got the Callagine. I mean, this would be good for getting rid of evidence if it came to that. In the mountains as upon the plain. Now this is a text in Vac, so we can't translate that. A dappled mask. In the forest where the moon couldn't go, the boughs of the trees were woven together like bandages or lovers. The moon might change herself to an ant or a bird or to her sister, but the forest would not yield to her penetrations, no matter her caresses. One day we came with our scissors, and we severed the branches until the moon and the blood dappled the rotting leaves on the forest floor. So this is a level 8 moth artifact. Lethe. A dark and syrupy liquor favored in unnamed forest villages. The tongue and the eye, and now we begin. Forget your name, forget your skin. Another level 8, and a whispering amulet, which is actually moth and grail. So it knows what I desire, or I imagine that it does. So we'll put that off to the side. This is the sort of thing I might be willing to gift to someone like Connie to try and make them like me, but we're not quite at that stage yet. So the question is do I want to go after the Hebe Stanton with limited crew, or do we risk it? I think in this case here we go after the Hebe Stanton, but that will be for the next broadcast because we are at the mark of the hour. So overall, we still made some progress. Obviously, we've been doing a lot more expeditions, and part of this is just because I've sort of been throwing caution into the wind, but you can actually see how throwing caution into the wind does create some complications for us. Connie is not just somebody who has advanced, so is now along in the making, but is someone who we've gotten the resentment because of the snare. So we do have some worries, sort of along these lines. So basically we've got two rivals and a stronger hunter than the weary detective. So these are the sorts of things where, depending on your temperament, it may make the playthrough more interesting, or it may just simply give you more challenges. I'm still pretty sure that we're going to be able to overcome most of the challenges that we run into, but of course right now we're just worried about time. All of our verbs are constantly active, and it's just really a matter of getting enough stuff to be able to upgrade the lore. Really, right now, we're just choked on edge. We just simply do not have enough things to be able to bring the people that we want into the cult. So I need to figure that out. But like I said, all of that will be handled in the next broadcast. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you are enjoying the series and you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you enjoyed this particular episode, do feel free to leave a like and or a comment, because they do help me get noticed, and it's always just nice to get that kind of feedback. And of course, if you didn't care for it, I always think it's a little silly to say, because presumably people don't watch hour-long videos they don't enjoy, but you can dislike as well if that is how you're feeling. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one, and have a good evening till then.